Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is me again, Jeff Rains with Foundation of Civilization. We have had another very interesting week with lots of events from around the world, and I hope that you're doing well. I hope that things are going well for you and your family, and if not, well, I hope that you are able to get them going well in the near future. It is the 8th of February, and let me start off with the markets from around the world. The principal markets, the things that we usually focus around are oil. So West Texas Intermediate crude is at $71. Brent North Sea crude is at 74.66, and the OPEC basket was at 76.45. Gold rose, continued to rise, 20 to $2,861.26. Silver was at $31.82. The Baltic, good news for slightly good news. Baltic Exchange Dry Goods Index was at 815, which was up a little bit for this past week. Conflict continues around the world. In fact, some new conflicts are beginning to erupt. The markets in Europe, the DAX was at 21,787 and 0 cents. The FTSE was at 8,753.53. The CAC 40 was at 7973.03. IBEX was at 12688.90. In very sad news, 11 people were killed in the worst school shooting in Sweden's history. It appears that the attack was conducted at an adult education facility. Russian reserve military exercises are beginning earlier than usual this year, prompting the question, could they be a cover for a new mobilization? The answer is yes. Any new offensive that requires mobilizing the Russian military, including its reserves, will likely be made to look like an exercise. The Russian Shadow Fleet, I've mentioned the Shadow Fleet a little bit, but I found a little more information this week. It's the fleet of ships that are moving Russian oil to its customers around the world, and they tried to conceal where who owns the ships ultimately. It appears that they spent $6.3 billion to acquire about 600 ships. Many of the ships were purchased by front companies and renamed to hide their origin. Until this week, with the new U.S. administration, further Ukraine funding was looking rather bleak. However, the new president has suggested that additional funding could be secured if Ukraine promises to allow U.S. interests to mine the vast mineral resources in the country, such as graphite, lithium, titanium, beryllium, and uranium. The trouble is that many of the richest mines are in the south and east, where the Russians have already invaded and are occupying. Over in Asia, the Nikkei was up at 39,787.02. The SSE index was at 3,303.67. The Hang Seng index was at 21,133.54. The BSE Sensex was at 77,860.19. And the Nifty 50 was at 23,559.95. In the Philippines, sad news for the United States. Four crew members, a Marine, and three defense contractors were conducting surveillance mission from a contracted Beechcraft twin-engine Super King Air 350 when the aircraft crashed. All all members of the crew and were killed. Everybody on board were killed. The U.S. is imposing sanctions that helps get Iranian oil to China. The Department of let me see, Foreign Asset Control uh, sanctioned more than a dozen people and companies in China, India, and the United Arab Emirates. The targets include Iranian and Indian citizens, crew management firms, and a collection of ships. China, after the United States president imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, China retaliated with tariffs on select U.S. imports. China also lashed out at the United States coercion after Panama declines to renew an infrastructure agreement. In New Delhi, the Modi's BJP, uh, the Modi's party, won the most seats in the past 27 years. Now, if you want to understand what's going on in the Middle East, pay attention to Turkey, what they're doing. They will be a key player in the future. They're becoming a key player now, and they are intensifying their operations against Israel. The U.S. president pushed the idea. I found this one kind of amusing. Pushed the idea of the U.S. taking over Gaza and while moving the residents to refugee camps in local nations like Egypt and Jordan. Egypt immediately expressed opposition to the idea. The discussions back and forth between Iran and the United States with the new administration are becoming interesting also. The U.S. administration wants to drive Iran's oil exports to zero. They want to. Uh, the president signed a memo reinstating the maximum pressure campaign against Iran. The Iranians have they've decided that they're going to do whatever they can to work against the United States also. But they've also both parties, both the United States and Iran, have suggested that we could come to terms on something. I'm not exactly sure what, but Iran's security chief has said stated that talks with even infidels are possible. The new administration also said that it's planning to escalate and intensify its fight against the Houthis uh, in the near future. In Africa, last week I reported the ongoing conflict in eastern Congo where M23 guerrillas took over the city of Goma, the Congolese city of Goma. Their operations continue and they've taken over another town further south. Now, African leaders are holding a summit in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, seeking a solution to the violence. Recently, probably over the past year or so, South Africa has started seizing white owned farms without compensation in an effort for reparations for the indigenous populations in the area. U.S. president has threatened to cut off aid to South Africa, and in response, the South African president has stated, "We will not be bullied." In Somalia, the United States conducted multiple airstrikes, and in related news, separate actions though, approximately 700 people were killed in clashes with the government. In the Americas, the Dow Jones average was at 44,303.40. The S&P was at 6,025.99. The Nasdaq was at 19,523.40. In a note on the U.S. economy, Mr. Philip Jefferson, Vice Chair of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, at an economics department lecture at Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania, stated that he expects the U.S. economy to continue its smooth operations and the federal funds rate to remain in the 4.25% to 4.5% range, which stability is nice. Well, that range is a little higher, it's a good bit higher than what we've come to expect over the past 10, 15 years. But stability is good. Some of you may have heard there was an egg farm in Pennsylvania that had 100,000 eggs stolen off of their property. Now, this is the kind of thing that goes on when people get desperate. The reason behind the egg shortage is because of a cull of millions of chickens due to bird flu. Interestingly enough, former head of the CDC, Robert Redfield, has been warning about a bird flu epidemic for years. Now, how did he know that we would have to struggle with the bird flu? Well, that is what they've been researching. And by researching, I mean developing. They've been developing a bioweapon that includes the bird flu. Government bureaucrats promoted the bird flu and culled birds, even if the owners called into question the test that they were conducting. They showed that none of the birds on their farm had the bird flu, but they just started to destroy the animals anyway. They just directed to they were just directed to destroy the animals. Now eggs are scarce and the prices are climbing, and everyone is shocked, except me. These are the kinds of stories that I watch for, and I see so I can see where things are going, what's happening. When I um, in Alaska, a Bering Air Cessna Caravan with 10 people on board vanished. It is expected that there will be no survivors. There was nine passengers and one pilot. The new administration has sent the Doge team into various agencies lately, and they have they have used a wrecking ball to bring things to their knees. I actually did a video earlier this week on it, which I hope that you will go and watch and review. One of the targets of the uh, Doge committee or office group, whatever you want to call them, was U.S. Aid. It has been well known that U.S. Aid is a CIA front company to spread money around to sow discord in countries around the world. A number of people, including former employees, have called into question the loyalty to the United States. And as the new administration came in and gave directives, they elected not to follow those directives and continued to spread money to places that he disagreed with. And so now USAID is shut down. Of the 10,000 employees that USAID had, they have almost all been fired, recalled home, and they are down to, I believe it was 264, 294, less than 300 employees. My guess is those are people just shuffling papers to get ready to shut the doors. Then again, maybe they're trying to prepare to get ready for something new. And it as I was doing a little bit of research on this week, I stumbled across several articles, and one of them noted that of the billions in question in USAID spending, millions went to fund terrorism. Earlier, actually, when he came in, the new U.S. president gave you government employees a until Thursday of this week to decide if they want to take a buyout. And apparently, 60,000 employees took the that offer and will not be working for the government for much longer. The new admin extended their buyout offers to pretty much the entire intelligence apparatus: the CIA, NSA, NGA, DIA, ODNI. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover, uh, actually, before I get to that, I wanted to note that the Senate committee ended up in a split decision uh, backing Tulsi Gabbard for the next intelligence chief, to next, uh, uh, well, for the leading the Department of National Intelligence. And now the last thing I wanted to talk about is the escalation, the oncoming escalation with Mexico. It was noted that the new administration has imposed a new paradigm on the war on drugs. It it's really uh, the new admin is really shaking things up and changing the way that operations are conducted. Now, the president of Mexico, uh, Claudia Sheinbaum, tends to speak out against these U.S. efforts, especially with the new administration. Now, she has to speak out against them because the cartels pretty much own most of Mexico, and if she doesn't, they'll attempt to assassinate her and have a very good chance of being successful. Cartel leaders are preparing to weaponize drones to attack U.S. Border Patrol and soldiers. The cartels are worried about losing the 13 billion in income they make from smuggling people across the border. U.S. president threatened to impose tariffs against Canada, Mexico, China over border security and fentanyl smuggling. Initially this week, the threat of tariffs caused markets across the world to slide, but tariffs were put on hold and the markets recovered. It was the discussions between the Mexican president, and the U.S. president. They were resolved very quickly. Actually, a little bit quicker than I thought they would. I knew that there would be a resolution. I just didn't know how fast it would come. I noted in the video earlier this week that almost as quick as the agreement was made, within hours, a U.S. military aircraft, an intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance asset called the RC-135 Rivet Joint was observed flying a route over Baja California, which is Mexican airspace. My guess is that part of the agreement that was reached was for this to happen. The ISR asset is collecting data on targets, which will be used to refine a target list. The airframe itself is actually very old. It's an old Boeing 707. The military designation is the 135, and it's used in a variety of uh, fashions. The uh, the sensor suite on it, though, is the latest gear that you can ever find. They, well, I mean, they could probably open up a portal to another dimension if they need to, but I also noted that it was in my video that it was interesting that they left the transponder on so the public could see that it's there. This is, I think they're sending a message to the cartels, letting them know, hey, we're here, we're watching you. I also wonder what other ISR assets are in the area over Western Mexico, or the rest of Mexico for that matter. I didn't make the connection earlier this week or last week, but a U.S. aircraft carrier, the Nimitz, was conducting operations off the coast of California, which is only a very short distance from this Mexican airspace. Oh, and the airspace that they are conducting this operation in would suggest that they are targeting the Sinaloa cartel. Since the current admin has made fighting the cartels a priority, you may see some fireworks going off very soon. If you are a cartel member, I would suggest that you check your life insurance policy, and you may want to up it. I don't think things are going to work out very well for you. That is all that I have for this week. I hope that you guys are doing well. Hope that you guys are paying attention to the changes that are going on in the world, and that you're preparing yourself and your family for those changes. Thank you very much for watching. Again, this is a Foundation of Civilization with Jeff Rains. Please like, share, and subscribe, and look forward to talking to you again next week. Uh, Thanks again, and this is Jeff Rains signing off.